I actually have two lives, and it is the second life that is the one that is the result of a transportation story. My first life was I was an attorney practicing law and raising 3 children in the state of Maryland for upwards of 30 years. And just a mom working. And then everything changed on February 26th, 2011. And my son was my middle child, Nathan, was a sophomore at Johns Hopkins University. My youngest was still living with me, Emma. She was 13 years old. And my oldest, Elliot, was a senior in college in Rochester, New York. And on February 26, 2011, I got a phone call on a Saturday morning from campus security telling me that my son Nathan had been in an accident. And I didn't get any details, I just got that phone call. And then within 5 minutes, I got another phone call from another police officer, I'm not sure who, but this other person wanted me to understand how serious the accident had been. And that was the event that created my second life, which actually it evolved over a period of years. So my son was very seriously injured. And what I found out over the next few months really was that those injuries were caused by a crash with a 83-year-old woman who had 3 glaucoma surgeries, and that he was in a bicycle lane wearing a helmet, and that she was aware of his presence in that lane because she had to make a legal U-turn to be on the correct side of the road to turn into her driveway. And so that morning, after she made that turn, she went down a hill. He went down that same hill. He was on her right, and she turned into her driveway at her apartment building. It was approximately 12 seconds from the time she saw him when she made the U-turn to the time that she actually made the turn. She did not turn her head to look across her vehicle. She did not look over her shoulder to the blind spot. She looked in her rearview mirror, which if he had been way distant and up the road, she would have spotted him. But she did not see him because she did not effectively look for him. She made her turn. He crashed into her vehicle, flew over her hood, landed on the driveway that she was turning into. She proceeded with her turn until he was trapped under her vehicle and under the hot engine of her car. He had 2 collapsed lungs, but unfortunately, because this woman did not do the right thing at that point, he had brain damage so severe that he never really had any conscious life at all after that. She got out of her vehicle, leaving it running, and she went down and sat on a wall outside her vehicle in front of her apartment building, and she did not call for help or assist him in any way. We think he lost consciousness very quickly. We don't know how the lungs collapsed. We just know that they were both collapsed under the vehicle. Eventually, a pedestrian figured out that this was a crash scene, although other pedestrians thought that he was fixing her car because his legs were sticking out of the front of the vehicle and it was running. So anyway, because of the injuries that he sustained from that, we eventually took him to hospice in August. In fact, on August 10th, 2011, just 5 days from now, is the anniversary of his death. He never did have any consciousness or ability to communicate or to respond to his world after that day. He was really a brilliant child. He was an amazing person who really did not conform to normal lifestyles. He really was a person that did his own thing, including in high school and even in college. He taught himself several programming languages. He was brilliant at computers. When he got to Johns Hopkins University, he was able to take graduate level courses as a freshman because he had done so much work on his own. The university really enjoyed having him for those 2 years, and I think they had great hopes for him. He had been offered a master's degree program coming into the school, so that he could have just stayed and continued on and gotten his master's. So Nathan was a very sweet boy, very quiet, shy, great sense of humor, just incredibly intelligent, and kept to himself a lot, following his own intellectual pursuits. So I have some pictures that I want to show. I love this picture. I had a baby when I was in my early 40s, and I brought that baby home to a 6-year-old and a 10-year-old. And this is Nathan holding his baby sister when she was a very new baby. Look at that smile, that proud brother smile. And towards the end of his life, his baby sister had her bat mitzvah, and that was in 2010, and that was in March of 2010, basically a year before the accident. And all the pictures that we have from that bat mitzvah are really so treasured. So this is a picture of Nathan at the bat mitzvah with he's the tall one. He's the tallest of my 3 children, and that's with his older brother, Elliot. And anyway, so I need a minute. But I am an intellectually curious person, and I needed to understand more about how this could have happened. How was this driver doing this driving and not turning her head or checking her blind spot, or why did she react in that way? I'm afraid there's a lot of answers that I still will never have. The police never turned her in to the medical advisory board that Maryland is so very proud of having, and it is an excellent medical advisory board, and the police officers on the road never really thought she was at fault. Eventually, she did get 2 tickets after the state's attorney's office got involved. But the police officers on the road actually came to the hospital that morning or early afternoon and told us, my daughter and I, that it was Nathan's fault because he hit her car. And so she actually did get a couple of tickets for violating the 3-foot bicycle law. You have to stay 3 feet away from a bicycle at all times. And she got a ticket for negligent driving. But even there, the officers failed to check off the right box. She got negligent driving without injury, even though his life was basically over. He didn't die within 30 days, so NHTSA records don't even include his fatality. So, I learned all these things over the years that have transpired since this incredible day. But my second life really began the day of that crash, because that was the life that I built based on a tragedy that is just so overwhelming that, and unfortunately I've kept records of other crashes of that type involving older drivers that have older driver type crashes. And everybody can have a normal crash, and I understand that, and we all do. But there are certain types of crashes that are very typical of medically impaired people. And I have a lot of records of those crashes. So I have developed quite a bit of expertise on older driver safety and aging and driving. And I have a perspective that is not like those that are currently working in this field. There's only one other attorney that I know of in this field, and he works for a research company. And as an attorney, understanding 50 states, each state does their own thing with regard to driver licensing, driver renewal, car registrations. It's a state problem, and yet there are 50 different systems out there, and none of them are really effectively keeping the impaired drivers off the road. So I made it my mission to do something about that in honor of my son, so that his life could mean something. Well, so that the end of his life could mean something.